So my channel is called Politics and Religion, and I haven't really done a lot of religious takes on this channel so far, but I kind of have one today. Um, and it really has to deal with some of my spiritual journey lately and my political journey lately, and the news, specifically what's going on with Russia. And I heard, I think it was a TikTok video done by some sort of preacher or pastor, and he said, imagine if no, I think he said something along the lines of we should be praying for the Russians. They're our enemies, and we should be praying for them. Maybe it was a Twitter post, but that's irrelevant at this point. And he said, God or Christ taught us that we should pray for our enemies, pray for those who spitefully use us, and I believe in that. I also think, like, if every American citizen was praying for Russia and every Russian citizen was praying for America, Russia and America could really alter their cultures from what they are currently and create uh, a a better system between the two of us. Um, I don't want to be like an overtly optimistic and say like we could create a beautiful world together, but certainly there would be less fear between us, and there would be more um, production between us. And I think that's what our society is missing. Is our society is missing faith in God, and a lot of that is seen in how the world is falling apart. If we all um, if we all searched for truth and converted ourselves to truth, whatever it may be, if we all were interested in finding what was real and then adapting ourselves to reality, I think the whole world would be better off. And to me, it seems that the entire world is focused on not finding truth, but finding convenience, finding what proves us right. And as any sort of mortal creature, we could never hope to originate in a full understanding of truth. Um, but as an intelligent individual, it's my purpose to search out for what is true and what is false, and then to govern my life and all things uh, in my care and jurisdiction according to the truths that I observe, um, whether they be painful for me or not. But the painful truths are some of the most important to be aware of. Um, Back to politics and away from my religious take on things. Um, I think it's interesting, this pipeline sanction that Biden just put back in place. Oh, sorry, this title is irrelevant. I apologize for that. But the sanction on the Nord Stream 2, I think, is kind of irrelevant. This is Joe Biden's reaction to aggression uh, from Russia's invading of parts of Ukraine. But it was Trump's default on the Nord Stream 2. The sanctions here are what Trump was doing by default, and it's interesting because everybody claimed that he was a Russian asset. Clearly not the truth. Clearly he was significantly harder on Russia than the current administration and the previous administration before him. Um, and Trump is relevant because he was, so vigorously fighting against these different issues and successfully held off any aggression from Russia. Now, a lot of people are claiming that, oh, the last four presidents, Trump was the only one that didn't have Russia make any aggressive territorial gains. But I think that's a little bit unfair because Trump has only had one term to deal with Putin and the Russians. And so I don't know if it's a fair assessment to put against Bush and Obama, but certainly it's fair to put against Biden because in Biden's first year and a half it happened. So um, I think that's a fair criticism of Biden. Which also, back to my first point, I think that Biden should also be receiving prayers from all of us conservatives. I think we should be praying for him because clearly he's not well, and he is the leader of our country. And if he's not in our prayers, um, I think that we're hardly worthy of any mercy from God and to be claimed at God's judgment by Christ. Um, the war, uh, I don't know if it's a war at this point, but the escalation doesn't seem to be going away. The U.S. forces or U.S. intel is saying that there's more risk of military aggression by Putin. People are saying a large amount of people are claiming that Kiev is at serious risk, and it clearly is at risk. But I don't know how serious the risk is. But it seems clear to me that the risk is higher because of the way we have responded. We basically turned back on sanctions against Russia, and I think Ben Shapiro has a good take on this whole sanction situation. Is the Russians can outweigh the sanctions that we put on them, while the Germans are going to be very interested in buying that Russian natural gas as quickly as possible, and they're probably less willing to wait a year than Putin is willing to wait a year for those sanctions to calm down. I do disagree with Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro believes that that's a good incentive for Putin to just sit still and sit on his hands and just be happy with what he's claimed. But I think with how limited the response has been, that Putin might be more incentivized to push back or to continue to push forward, excuse me, and to take more territory. The last thing I wanted to say is we need answers from our administration, from the President of the United States. The current ruling or governing administration needs to be more clear. I think Biden gave like a 10-minute conference after Russia invaded, and he didn't take any questions. And I think that's absolutely inappropriate, especially when we're facing pressure from the Russians in Ukraine and the Chinese in Taiwan. I think obviously the place to keep your eye on is Taiwan, but um, I think China is more terrified of its military than we are. I I believe that they are very skeptical of how the Chinese military will perform. I heard something interesting from the China Uncensored channel, which I highly recommend you go look at. And Chris Chappell was saying that each Chinese uh, military, private or each individual in the military is an only son that is the star of every family he came from, and they, as a product of the one child policy, they are everything to the family that he is representing in the military. And if he dies, then a series of families and relatives will be extremely destroyed by that, and their entire future will be eliminated by his death in the military. And I think that the Chinese are pretty terrified about that. I think that they're pretty terrified about corruption. Um, so I'm less worried about China than everybody else. Well, than anybody else that looks into China. I think the average citizen is maybe asleep at the wheel. Um, Clearly, we were asleep when we had the last election, when we thought that mean tweets were the thing to fear. But as we have come to see, the fear of mean tweets has turned into what could possibly be World War III in the next year or two. next 6 months even. But we'll see. The militaries that be the potential enemies that we may face are probably wanting to build up their forces before they initiate any sort of military action. But we'll see. And that's kind of my take on it. Uh, don't forget, like, honestly, if you are searching for God, if you are attempting to be a better person every day, and if you pray for the Chinese and the Russians, then God will protect you and God will protect us. And that's what I pray for. Good luck, and I hope you have a fantastic day.